You scared? Say you scared. You don't think you got what it takes to keep your man? Say that. I thought you were more like your father, but it seems that you're more like your mother. Your mother's in Puerto Rico crying, hugging a pillow, while your father's in St. Lucia with his first love, trying to figure out how he can have his cake and eat it too. And instead of reining in her nigga, she's thrown in the damn towel. I guess you got it honest. This is Bedtime Stories, Grown-Up Edition, Poetic Justice, Part 16. When we left off in Part 15, Emmanuel Manny Lopez had made it clear to his wife, Marisol, that while there was no love lost between him and his oldest son, Stanley, he had a bone to pick with Anand. And while she was not going to lose her husband, there was absolutely a price to be paid for her deceit. And if you watch bonus episode 3, parts 1 and 2, then you know Anand paid with his life. And to ensure that Nadia had bodies she could bury, Manny had soldiers stage both his and Stanley's deaths to appear to be a tragic accident. The Queen Mother had told Donovan the truth about Porsha still being alive and still being pregnant. And that fact hadn't even sunk in good before Porsha was up to her old shenanigans. With True's preterm labor crisis averted, Maribel was on her way home, and Donovan was on pins and needles, because he had no idea how his wife was going to handle the news. And Melissa's very first visit with her Uncle Wood had miraculous results, proving yet again that the power of prayer is real. Miss Charlotte was initially hesitant to allow Melissa to interact with her son. She was concerned that it would be too much for Melissa and too much for Wood. But Q had convinced her that pushing Wood was the right thing to do. And in the end, she was glad that she'd relented, both to Melissa's ministrations and to a first round of Q&A. So when Big Wood confirmed that he wanted to get stronger and pull up on True, in lieu of having his mother contact True and tell her that he was still alive, Miss Charlotte said, well, son, that means you have 4 months or less to get it together. Well, I don't want you to overdo it. I do want you to have whatever incentive you need to fight like hell to get back to you. I've been reading to you and showing you pictures for days now, and I had no idea whether you could even hear me. Now that I know you can, I'm almost afraid to stop. Do you want to keep going, or do you want me to let you rest? And Big Wood just stared. Miss Charlotte said, well, I guess that's going to be hard for you to answer, huh? Does your throat hurt? And Big Wood blinked once for yes. Then she asked, do you feel like you could talk if it didn't? And Big Wood blinked twice for no. Miss Charlotte asked, are you having a hard time putting your words together? And Big Wood blinked once for yes. Miss Charlotte asked, do you want to keep going? And Big Wood blinked once for yes. Miss Charlotte said, okay, I'll be right back. Then she went into the other room and called Q. She filled him in, and he came back to the house. He said, Aunt Charlotte, this iPad is Melissa's. She used to use it when she was experiencing selective mutism. I've changed the voice to a male one, but it obviously won't sound like him. Let's see if we can get him to use it, and we might be able to get more information out of him. You showed Miss Charlotte how to work the iPad, and when she returned to the room with Big Wood, she said, let's try this. If it doesn't work, no problem. But I need to be able to ask you open-ended questions. Now, do you want to try to talk? Do you want me to continue reading? Do you want to look at pictures and videos? Then she pulled up the appropriate tiles on the tablet and held it in front of Big Wood. He reached up with his uninjured arm and clicked the image for read. And Miss Charlotte obliged. When Miss Charlotte read True's journal entry, Big Wood listened intently as True described the last time that she'd seen Big Wood alive. She'd written, I don't know how old you'll be when you read these journal entries, or I or your grandmother read them to you. So I don't know how much is too much to write, but I'm just going to write it all, and we'll figure the rest out later. As Miss Charlotte read, she periodically looked up at her son to see how he was being impacted by the words that he was hearing. She assumed, based on his facial expressions, that he was experiencing a gamut of emotions: love, longing, disappointment, fear, pain, and confusion. But she could also tell that a lot of what he was hearing was ringing true for him as well. What she couldn't know was Big Wood's thoughts, because he still didn't have the words, and it was still all so confusing for him. When he'd taken the first shot through the back in the alley, he'd spent the round with the intention of returning fire. But the second shot that went through his shoulder caused him to drop one of the two pistols that he was holding. And his instincts told him the only thing he could do was get out of the line of fire. When he jumped to do so, he took that third bullet through the thigh. He figured that the only thing he could do was lay there and wait to die. And then he remembered that he could pray. So he did. He didn't ask God to prolong his life. He asked for forgiveness. He asked God to take care of the people that he loved, to give his mother the strength to honor his wishes, and to give True whatever she needed to bring his son into the world safely. As Big Wood listened, he thought to himself, it was like I summoned her. She just appeared out of nowhere. And when I heard those 4 rapid-fire shots, I knew in my soul it was her. I did everything that I could to hold on to this world. I was fighting for consciousness. And then there she was, begging me to stay, trying to save me. And all I wanted was for her to get the hell out of there. I was dying, and I didn't want her to die with me. As he listened to his mother read True's description of the information that Renni had fed to her, from the moment he arrived at the hospital and the family received updates from the doctors, he scoured his mind, trying to remember as much of that time as possible. But he was going between 2 worlds the entire time, and the picture in his mind was not pretty. He knew that he was in a hospital, but he could still hear the gunshots. And every time they pulled him back, it was like they'd saved him all over again from the clutches of the devil. Because when he'd fade away, there was nothing peaceful about it. He'd heard souls screaming, and he couldn't help but think, to believe, that they were the souls of people he'd killed. He'd heard maniacal laughter and some evil voice calling his name. Benjamin. And as much as he wanted the pain to stop, he refused to answer the call. Whenever he cried out to Jesus, he could feel his soul being pulled back into his body. As his mother read True's account of seeing him laying in that hospital bed, he remembered fighting to stay conscious, fighting to open his eyes, wanting nothing more than to see her face, feeling the determination in his soul to live, to be reunited with her. The desire to wipe her tears and hold her in his arms was overwhelming. And nothing that he did made any of that possible. As he faded in and out, he heard True say, I love you. Then everything went black. Then he came back, and he heard True say, how am I supposed to keep my feet on the ground? And then everything faded again, and he fought to come back. And then he heard True say, your son can't grow up in a world without you. And then he faded again, and he heard True say, I can't do this. I won't do this. And then he faded again. As he tuned into what his mother was reading, he heard her read the words, I was so angry. All I wanted was to take it all out on Amira. But there was still information that we needed from her. And if your father didn't make it, neither was she. Which is why I told him that if he didn't make it, neither would she or her baby. And I didn't care who the father was. Then Big Wood remembered fighting against the arms and hands that were pulling him to the other side. The screams, the maniacal laughter, his name being called in the evil voice, crying out to God, his soul returning to his body, and hearing True say, if you don't make it, then darkness, then True saying, neither will, and darkness, and True saying, baby, and I don't care who the father is. And then he flatlined. Then Big Wood thought to himself, I thought she was saying if I didn't make it, she wasn't keeping my baby. That's not what she was saying at all. Everything went black and it was finally peaceful. I was in a garden and I heard a voice. It had to be God saying that it wasn't time and I had to go back, that he would make it right. And then I felt this jolt and I felt my soul fly back into my body and I was able to open my eyes. I could hear and I could see she was in his arms. He was holding her like she was his. And he looked at me and the look on his face said that he never wanted to let her go. But when he saw me seeing him, he looked like he knew what it was, 'cause he took his hands off my woman. And all I could think was she was going to get rid of my baby and he was going to be there to comfort her. And I had to survive. No matter how long it took, no matter what I had to do, I was going to live and I was going to find them. And the only way They were gonna live as if my baby did. Then Big Wood heard his mother saying, you imagine how hurt True is right now? Think about what she's going through. She almost went into preterm labor the day that we held that fake funeral for you. She's all alone and thinks that you are dead. Do you know how much good it would do? She knew that you were still alive and you were fighting to get back to her. Big Wood looked at the tablet and found the word no. Miss Charlotte said, I just don't understand, son. I get that at first you thought that she didn't keep the baby, but now you know better. Is there something else that I'm missing? And Big Wood found the word on the tablet and hit yes. Miss Charlotte said, okay, son. Q told me that there's video outside of your hospital room from the time that True was there to see you. Would it help if he came and played that video for you? Would you be able to make us understand then? And Big Wood hit the button for yes. Nearly 2 weeks later, in Puerto Rico, Marisol said, I'm glad you're going home. I'm sure that the children and Donovan miss you, Maribel. You need to fight. Maribel said, yeah, I'm good on that. I've been fighting since I met that man. The fighting was supposed to end when we got married. Marisol said, now that is unrealistic. Marriage is all about fighting for one another. Maribel said, and all we've done is fight against and with one another. These last few months have been great. And from the looks of things, this is as good as it's gonna get. That's not what I signed up for. Marisol said, this isn't his fault though. Maribel said, if he hadn't gotten her pregnant, none of this could even be possible. I get that his mother went behind everybody's back and kept all of this from us. But that heifer is not doing anything that she wouldn't have done if she hadn't been shot in the first place. She's precisely where he intended for her to be, receiving the care that he intended for her to receive. And she intended all along to command his time, attention, and body. She's just using Bella's manipulation as a means to that end. Marisol said, that may be true, Maribel, but you do realize that he very well could have given her what she asked for, and you would have known nothing of it. He could have done it and kept it a secret. Maribel said that would have only lasted so long. She would have made sure that I found out. He wasn't being altruistic by telling me. He was trying to get in front of it. He was trying to create a space where he could go to that facility, pipe her down, and come home to me afterwards. I'm not playing that game with him or her. If that's what he wants to do, he can do it. But I don't need to participate. Marisol said, but mija. Maribel said, instead of worrying about me and Donovan, don't you think you should be worried about you and Daddy? He killed a man, and he wants us to believe that he did it because he stood between him and his son. When it's obvious by the way that he's been moving that he wanted that old thing back, and he took advantage of the opportunity to eliminate the competition. Marisol said, I understand that you're hurt right now, but that does not give you the right to use your words to hurt me. Maribel said, I'm sorry, Mommy, but your husband is in St. Lucia, comforting another woman, while you're here in Puerto Rico, dying inside, looking like the weapons that formed against you are prospering. Your son is walking around looking like someone stole his bicycle because he's in love and horny, and he is completely unfamiliar with both. So instead of leaning into the feeling, he's avoiding the woman who's causing them, leaving her completely confused in the middle of her grief. And your daughter is throwing herself into her work as usual because she can't face the fact that you're taking all of this laying down. Stand up, Mommy. Stand up. Marisol said, and what about you, dear? Your feelings are hurt, so you've been in Puerto Rico for nearly 2 weeks, stuffing your face, drinking your troubles, and lashing out at everyone else. You're mad at your father. You're mad at me. You're mad at Donovan, at Bella, at Angela. And you have no empathy for the actual victims, not for Nadia or Donovan. Maribel said, victims? If Nadia was as innocent as you seem to think she is, she'd have sent your husband home. And Donovan, Marisol said, loves his children, is in an impossible situation, and needs his wife home. Maribel said, then he needs to choose. Unlike Daddy, he doesn't have anybody to choose for him. I'm gonna let him do what he feels like doing. And then I'm gonna let the chips fall where they may. As far as I'm concerned, I have grounds for an annulment. It can be like this marriage never happened. Thank God I didn't let that man get me pregnant. And as far as home is concerned, this is my home. I'm only going back to Texas because it's time for my cousin's 30-week appointment, and I'm her OBGYN. But I'll be letting her know today that she'll need to see someone else in the practice, because I'd prefer to never lay eyes on her again. My little living on the mainland experience is over. 2 weeks earlier, when the Queen Mother told Maribel that Porsha was alive, still pregnant, and at the treatment facility in Dallas, Maribel lost it. Somehow she'd assumed that this was the secret that her father was planning on telling her, since the Queen Mother hadn't spoken to Manny, Marisol, or anyone else since she left the round table. She had no clue that Manny hadn't told her about Stanley. So when Marisol said, "I thought that my father's manipulation had no ends, but it's clear that you two are cut from the same damn cloth. You're both some diabolical, plotting, manipulative bastards. And there is a cold place in hell waiting for you." The Queen Mother said, "This is not the same as me hiding the fact that Nadia was pregnant with Stanley from your father. The two things aren't even remotely close, Maribel. And I don't give a damn how mad you are. You need to watch your mouth. Now, I love you, and I get why all of this is upsetting for you. What's important here is that your father and your husband need your support." Maribel said, "Nadia, Stanley, what the hell are you talking about?" The Queen Mother said, "What did your father tell you?" Maribel said, "Nothing. You already started telling me, so you might as well finish." The Queen Mother said, I thought that you were referring to the reason why your father called that family dinner. Let's deal with one issue at a time. You're getting ready to walk into your home. Well, your husband's just had his whole world turned upside down. Maribel said, "By you. You turned his world upside down. Who else knows about this? Who else was in on this? Do my parents know this? My mother was awfully insistent that I find out what you did with Porsha. So clearly she knew something." The Queen Mother said no, she suspected based on a previous experience. Maribel said, "Oh, with you hiding Nadia and her pregnancy? Let me guess. Her son Stanley is my father's son? Is that the secret that my father was intending to tell me?" The Queen Mother said, "Yes." Maribel said, "So you just an old pro at playing with people's lives. You get a kick out of hiding pregnant women and babies. You know damn well that my father wouldn't have married my mother if he knew he had another woman pregnant. And you knew damn well that I wouldn't have married Donovan if I knew that Porsha was alive and pregnant. I would have wanted to wait and see how all of that turned out first. I would have wanted to see just how much havoc she was going to wreak on our lives. I would have wanted the opportunity to bow out. I don't do this drama. I'm not competing with a psychopath for a man." Now his hands are tied. Well, mine's aren't. If they want each other, they can have each other. I ain't got fighting for a nigga in me. And I love him, but I'm not willing to do jail time behind him. I am married to a man who's about to have 3 children with 3 different women. What the hell? The Queen Mother said, "You knew who Donovan was when you married him. You didn't go out and find a man who was completely different from the one who raised you. You want to walk away? Maribel, walk away. But don't make it about Porsha. You scared? Say you scared. You don't think you got what it takes to keep your man? Say that. I thought you were more like your father, but it seems that you're more like your mother. Your mother's in Puerto Rico crying, hugging a pillow, while your father's in St. Lucia with his first love, trying to figure out how he can have his cake and eat it too. And instead of reining in her nigga, she's thrown in the damn towel. I guess you got it honest." Marisol said, "Go to hell. I don't ever want to see or talk to you again. And when I find out who helped you pull this off, I'm going to have that boop." The Queen Mother said, "Oh, it sounds like you want to tussle." Maribel said, "Oh, lady, I will." And before she could finish that sentence, the Queen Mother had reared back and slapped the taste out of her mouth. They started rolling around in the back seat. The chauffeur had to pull over. And when he pulled the back door open, the Queen Mother had Maribel in a headlock. It took him and 3 guards to pull the 2 women apart. When Maribel arrived at home, she had a shiner and a busted lip, and she was delivered to the door by a soldier and a lieutenant, who both looked like they were struggling not to laugh because the Queen Mother had beat the brakes off Maribel. Donovan said, "What the hell happened to you?" Maribel said, "Your mother." And before she could say another word, the Queen Mother ran up behind her and kicked her in her back. Maribel was sprawled out in the floor, and Donovan was flabbergasted. He said, "Medea, what are you doing?" The Queen Mother said, "Little girl, let me tell you something. As long as I got breath in my body and I can lay niggas down, a broad won't disrespect me once without finding out why she shouldn't do it twice. Now I told you, I get why you're upset. You mad, be mad. Play dominoes, play hopscotch, but don't you ever play with me." Then she turned around and walked back out the door. Donovan helped Maribel up off the floor, and as soon as she got up, she took a swing at him. He ducked and wrapped her in his arms and she fell apart.
Always at the bottom of your checklist.